What's up, everybody? Joe Ringen here, coming to you today with another book review. Today it's going to be a awesome sci-fi book that I'll be reviewing. I've been doing a lot of fantasy lately. If you haven't followed my channel, you know a lot of King Arthur stuff, Pendragon Cycle. So I took a little break from that, but after commenting with some of you guys on the comments, I'm going to pick up again with the Pendragon Cycle with the next couple books, but that's down the road. I have a few more books under my belt. I was just on vacation with my family out west, and so there's a lot of time to read. So I went to the library beforehand and got a few awesome sci-fi books, crushed them, and so I got a few more review videos coming your way before I get to the next King Arthur books. But so today is a really, really interesting book. It's part of the Culture series, which is a beloved series by sci-fi fans, and I can totally see why. It's really good, and I don't know if it's underrated, but it's just not super duper popular, but it should be. It's really good. So so this is actually book 2 in the Culture series. It's called The Player of Games, and by Iain M. Banks. I've read the first book in the series called Consider Phlebas. I read it like probably 3 years ago, so I wouldn't think a review of that first would do it justice because it's been so long. I'll have to review it later on. But the cool thing is, or reread it and then review it. But the cool thing is, with the Culture series, it's kind of like Discworld in the sense that it's not necessarily all in chronological order, or like it's not like a one flowing overarching narrative. They're all individual stories set within the same world. So I think the best way to read it, usually people say online, is just the publication order. So in that case, this book, Player of Games, is number 2. But I guess it really doesn't matter because they're all just individual separate stories, self-contained stories. But I think if you read it in the order of publication, you sort of build a little bit off of it and maybe get a little more out of it than if you don't. But anyway, so it's not going to harm anyone to have this be my first review on my channel for the Culture. It's book 2 instead of 1. But before I get into the review, though, I want to let you know. So besides reading books and reviewing books, I also wrote a book, and it's called The Ballad of Ages. It's on Amazon. If you like fun, epic fantasy, check it out. You might like it. But for today's purposes, I'm going to talk about Player of Games, book 2 in the Culture series, Iain M. Banks. So I'm not going to jump too far into what the Culture is or what the series is, because I've only read 2 books out of it. But from what I've gleaned out of it so far, it's the Culture is it's a futuristic galaxy, really, universe where a lot of planets are inhabited, and the Culture is like the dominant empire. I don't know if that's the right word. Society, I guess, because they're very like not. Well, it's a very sort of like, I guess, communist. That's not the right exact way to think of it, but post scarcity. Everyone has everything they ever need. There's really no violence. There's not much need for policing or law. It's a very sort of socialist society, but not quite that. So people don't necessarily have to work. There's technology and robots that take care of that. But the scary thing is the Culture, even though they're so peaceful and prosperous, they still have the biggest stick in the galaxy, so to speak. They have a huge military, and so that's part of these books. And of course there's the other fringe worlds or planets that are sort of, no, they're not part of the Culture for various reasons, religious reasons or whatever. And so sometimes they butt heads and stuff like that. So it's a very interesting setting for one. And this book, it's in a very small corner of the galaxy, right? With one character, his main character. His name is Jurnau I forget the middle name, last name Gurgi. He's just referred to as Gurgi throughout the book. He's a very like intellectual guy. Think of like a college professor. I think he actually is a professor of some sort. So he's a very smart academic person, but he's a huge celebrity in the galaxy for being a champion of games. So like a very good game players, like what they call it. So, but not like sports, not quite video games, but like board games. So there's all these different types of games, and just like in our society, we sort of deify like athletes, or even nowadays, people on like Twitch and stuff that are like really good at pro gaming, right? Video games, e-games, or whatever you call it now. So he's kind of like that, but it's not video games. It's actually like board games, and they're all made up games. They're not like chess or stuff. They're all made up for this book, and it's very, very interesting. So he's a celebrity figure. He's won many, many tournaments, very prestigious, and he's basically the best game player of the whole galaxy. That's the backstory. And so the point of this book is, I'm not going to give away too much spoiler stuff, but he gets through sort of like a blackmailing plot. He gets picked by the government to go to this planet called Azad, and the government's kind of been scoping it, or the culture, I should say. The culture's been sort of scoping it out, this planet, Azad, trying to figure out what it's all about, because it's, I guess, new to them, and they're trying to see what their ideology is, their values, what their military's like, sort of figuring out if it's a threat or not, whether they need to neutralize that threat. But Gurgi doesn't know that. He just thinks he's being told to go play this game and represent the culture to Azad. Oh, I should say. So Azad, the planet, they have a game. It's called Azad, based off the planet, named after the planet. And so he's selected by the culture to be the first ever non-Azadian to go play this game. And so he's going to go do that, represent the culture. It's like a tournament that happens every, I think, 4 years, kind of like the Olympics, right? So he gets shipped out over to the planet to represent the culture and play the game and just see how he does. So that's what Gurgi thinks. But there's other plots and levers being pulled beneath the surface, behind the scenes, that I won't tell you in this review. Read the book, and Gurgi doesn't know about until the very, very end. So that's it. That's the story. So it's very interesting, though. Like, way more interesting than what I just said, and it's written very well. I'll talk a little bit about what I liked, what I didn't like, and I'll just say right now, I recommend you like it. You read it. If you like sci-fi, read this book. There's some things, again, you might not like, and I'll describe it going forward from here. So first of all, the things I loved about this book, again, a great sci-fi, the world building, or like the setting of the culture is awesome. Super cool. And that was the same with the first book too. So I really like this series and I want to continue. So great sci-fi setting, cool planets, people, creatures. So that's really cool. I'm not like a huge board game player, right? I used to play video games a ton, not so much anymore in my adult life, I guess, whatever. So that part didn't interest me. So I was a little nervous. I'm like, I don't really care about like board games, so this book might be boring to me. That's not the case. That's just like a plot mechanism. It's the game itself is a central part, but that's not really like the book. It's not about playing games, I should say. So that's the other thing I loved about this book. So the games, and especially the game of Azad, Banks, he doesn't explain the game. Like, very small parts of it. He doesn't go into all the rules. Very easily could have gone through, like, spent like 50 pages describing the whole game, the strategies, all this stuff, all the rules. That would have bored me to death. I would have thrown this book in the garbage if that happened. That didn't happen. Honestly, he doesn't describe necessarily all the details at all. Just very, very small amounts to keep you interested, and so you know what's happening. And it's clever because you learn about the game along with Gurgi, along with the character, because he's never heard of this game until he gets shipped over to the planet Azad. So on his journey, or his traveling to Azad, he has to really sort of crash course himself and study the game and do practice rounds against the AI computer on the ship. It's super cool. So you learn about the game. It sort of unfolds along with the main character. So that's very smart and very clever. But even so, you don't learn all about the game, and you don't need to. The point of this book is not the details of the game itself. So Banks leaves a lot of that to the imagination, which is kind of fun. And it's all, it's like a board game, but it's also like a huge board. So it's not just like you're sitting at a table, like it's like a big arena, and there's pieces that kind of move. So it's left to the imagination a little bit how that works and how that displays in the story. But what we know is it's not a computer game, it's not a video game. It is, and it's not just like a small board game. So from there, you use your imagination to see how that plays out, which is really fun. The other things we learn about the game is that, or about the planet, this is another thing I thought was what I loved about this book, and the first book too, and what it seems like to be the rest of the Culture series. There's a lot of like political theorizing. What do you call that? Like political science, or like, I don't know if that's the right word, but thought experiments about how different forms of politics or different forms of governments would work in different societies. So that's really fun to sort of see how that happens, and terrifying also. So this planet is odd. The game runs the planet, right? There's no like elections like we have. It's not like a monarchy where the king, his son is like the next king. Whoever wins the tournament becomes the emperor of the planet. So the tournament is huge. It runs the whole society. The fate of the planet is determined by this game. So it's really, really interesting in that way. And so, of course, because of that, you get a lot of sort of manipulation. You get a lot of bad things happening, right? So, and to raise yourself in society, it's all about power. Power is the number one coveted thing in this world of Azad, and that's how you get your place in the society. If you win the tournament, you're the emperor. If you're a high-ranking official, you did very well in the tournament. You might not have won, but you did very well. And so, in a way, that's kind of interesting, and maybe that it's kind of like, oh, that makes sense. The world should run that way, maybe, because the most qualified person, and the game is all about, you have to be smart. You have to be able to work with people. It's a strategy game, so you have to be able to defend your team or whatever, and beat the other people. It's all strategy. You have to be able to be good at politics, but also be able to like sustain your society. So it's kind of like Catan, I guess, if you've ever played that, mixed with like Risk, and then Civilization, I guess. So it's all about running a society and your world surviving, and then of course defeating other factions or enemies. So if you're good at that, you'd be a good emperor, right? Yeah, that makes sense. So it kind of makes sense. Seems like maybe that's a good way we should have the rulers. They have to win this game. Problem is, as we learn later, is what happens when you have people that end up with power. They don't want to lose that power, and so not only are they good at sort of strategizing and politicizing in the game itself, but they do that in the world. So what happens is the game gets rigged, right? There's things behind the scenes of the game where the people with power retain power, and it's sort of like a weird nepotism thing where it's sort of rigged. The people that gets matched up against the other people in the tournaments, it sort of gets rigged so that the heirs of the people in power end up having a huge advantage against other incumbents, or not incumbents, but the new people. And so then the new people always lose, and the people with power always retain power. So here we go. It's just like our real world, right? Power gets abused, and the small guy stays small. He can't win. So it's all rigged. Very interesting. Very interesting how that works out. Same places sometimes in the office, sometimes, of course, in government. People with power stay in power, and it's hard to climb the ladder. And that's the same thing in this world, in Azad. Fascinating stuff. And it's written so well where Banks, he exposes these truths of our world in this book without saying that. So there's a point where you realize, oh, he's actually talking about like Earth and probably America. And I think England, wherever he's from. So you definitely see that, and it's terrifying, but also really clever and eye-opening. The scary thing, or the sad thing, is when he describes as a chapter where he describes sort of like the underworld of Azad, horrifying, because you know a lot of this stuff goes on in our world right now. It's horrifying. How there's human trafficking, drug addiction, all this stuff, and he doesn't pull any punches. You know, he describes it. People get abused, and they sadly sell the one commodity they have, which could be their bodies. So they sell themselves to that to try to get a leg up in society. And then, but they become addicted to drugs or whatever, and it's just horrifying and super sad. So he describes that in this world, and also describes how the people in power do the same things. They take advantage of the lowly, and they have all the same horrible vices, and it's just super sad. And I just imagine that it's the same way here in our world. A lot of the people that have power, you know, they do power goes to your head, and it's sad how some of the things that happen to other people, because, you know, in this world, power is God, and that's really what, sadly, the way it is in this world too, in our world. So horrifying, but it's good to read these things if you can stomach it, because it really opens your eyes to the things in our world, and so we don't ourselves fall into these traps, and so we can learn to identify them before we maybe start falling down the slope into these things. So Banks, he doesn't advocate necessarily for a certain political way. You can kind of see that it seems like a utopian socialist type of society is. It seems like he's sort of saying that's the best way, but not explicitly saying that. Of course, what's missing in all this is God, or a true God, or religion that says the one way to share, to help people, is through love, true love for your neighbor and for God, and that's not in this story. But I guess it's not in a lot of sci-fi, but that would be the answer to solve this world's problem and our worlds, to be honest. But so great sci-fi book. There's a lot of cool, interesting things. The game itself, it reminded me of the concept of, like, when you read fantasy books, there's different types of magic systems, right? There's the soft magic system and the hard magic system. I personally lean towards the soft magic system because it allows your imagination to fill in the gaps. Soft magic would be things like Lord of the Rings. Gosh, there's a lot. But so hard magic would be like more like Brandon Sanderson, like Mistborn, and where it's very, very detailed. It's like scientific and how it works almost, which is cool. I mean, that's a really cool thing. I just personally don't like that. Or I shouldn't say I don't like it. I lean towards soft magic. I appreciate allowing my imagination to fill in the gaps versus being told exactly how magic works. So I like the soft magic system. And so I couldn't help thinking that's what the game Azad is like. That's how Banks wrote it. He didn't give us all the details. He didn't give us the textbook of how the game or the instruction manual. He gave us some ideas and concepts, and then let our imaginations fill in the gaps. So I think that was really fun. That's probably why I like this book so much. The things I didn't like, really, the main thing I didn't like was the kind of the opening section, opening scene. It was that kind of section where Gurgi, the main character, is getting blackmailed by like an AI robot. It was weird. I think it was unnecessary. I think it could have been explained quicker or differently. I don't know. I just didn't like it so much. It was just kind of boring to me. But it got him to go to Azad, and that's fine. That's where it really got awesome. But if we got rid of the blackmailing section, that was just kind of boring to me. So because of that, I gave the book a 7 out of 10. If we didn't have that section, I would have really liked the book better. That just kind of dragged on. It was kind of boring. But I'm super intrigued in the culture. It's so much of what I love about books is where, within a story, a fun story, an interesting story, you learn a lot about philosophy. There's a lot of like political ideas being thrown out, thought experiments about how societies would work under various governmental structures. And it's just, I love that stuff. I eat it up and it's just fun to learn and to broaden your brain and to check your own ideas and beliefs and see how they hold up to different ones. And that's important, sharpen the sword, keep it fresh, keep it sharp, right? That's what these books do. And I love it. So yeah, if you like sci-fi, if you like political intrigue, if you like philosophy and future worlds, you'll love this book. And for sure the first book too in the culture. I love his writing style too. I'm going to keep on with this series as they become available at the library. So yeah, good book. Player of Games. Very interesting. I give it 7 out of 10. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your weekends, and we'll see you next time.